Hey, it's Linda here. In this channel, I like to talk about finance and really any other life happenings that I want to share. And this video is how I traded up from my 2013 Hyundai Elantra that I had for 13 years up to a 2025 Mitsubishi Outlander that I'm sitting in right now. Now, technically, this Mitsubishi is used, but it's only used for 1 year and 11,000 miles, so it's pretty much like brand new to me. I want to go through 3 parts. The car buying process, my initial thoughts on the Mitsubishi Outlander car, the PHEV version. The third topic is going to be around electric vehicles in general and my first impressions as a first-time electric vehicle owner. So the car buying process, this is my second time buying a car ever in my life. And 13 years ago, it was a lot different. Nowadays, I find that maybe it's harder to negotiate anything under MSRP or list price at the dealership. I think overall, I'm happy with what I paid for a used car. I paid about $10,000 less than I would for a new one of a similar trim. I probably could have tried to fight for more. I'm not sure if I really needed the Zurich insurance and Zurich Shield stuff, but they said that that couldn't be taken off, so I kind of just left it as is. I did, however, negotiate my trade-in. So I have 113,000 miles on my Hyundai Elantra, and it's definitely got some dings on it. But before I went into the dealership, I did a ton of research, including researching on Carvana. And Carvana actually emails you a quote for your trade-in. So I put in my details, put in the 113,000 miles, and I got my quote for 1,700 for trade-in. I expected the trade-in would be less, roughly half of what I would maybe get if I sold it myself, private party, but I didn't want to go through the hassles of private party, and I just wanted to kind of let the dealership take care of that. So I got an email from Carvana for $1,700 to sell my car. I also researched how much the going rate for a new Mitsubishi Outlander would be, and also used Mitsubishi Outlander. I found the VIN of this one online and just put it into Kelley Blue Book, KBB.com. And they gave me a price range, and I found that the list price was within the range. So I thought it was a fair price you were listing it for. Now, when it came to the trade-in, they looked at my car and they first gave me a quote of $500. So immediately I was shocked, and I told them, wow, I was expecting way more than that. And then they said, how much were you expecting? And I said, I looked on Carvana and they quoted me $1,700, and they actually asked if they could see the email, and I showed them the email with the $1,700, and they said they would see what they could do, and they had me sign if I agreed to that price. If they could get that price, would I agree to pay it? And I did sign that. So they came back and they were able to get the price. It wasn't too much back and forth the whole time. Like, they were nice, I was nice, which I really appreciate, because I've been to car dealerships where they've been so rude, and I just, have to walk out right away when they're so rude. But these guys were really nice. And so they got my price for the trade-in from $500 to $1,700. So I was able to buy the car that same day. I did do a lot of research on this particular car that I was going to get. I first was looking for, maybe the past year or two, a car that was an SUV, and because where I live in this climate, it snows pretty much every year, and every year my little Hyundai Elantra swerves a little bit and fishtails, and I was sick and tired of that. And it was running into kind of its older age problems, over 100K miles, a lot more maintenance that had to be done. So I was thinking either this year or next year I was definitely going to buy a new car, whether new or slightly used or good quality used. So I was looking for an SUV for sure. I also was interested in a third row, so a 3-row SUV, because I want to have a family in the future, and we also have a large 70-pound dog. And so we were thinking, how would we have room for our road trips when we go 5-6 hours at a time, a few times a year at least on road trips? Where would they all fit? So I think a third row was pretty important to me. Other features that I really wanted in a car was that it was hybrid. I really cared about the gas mileage, and also helps the environment some too. During my search all throughout the last year, I was looking mostly at the Toyota Grand Highlander. That one had hybrid available, seemed spacious enough for 3 seats, and of course an SUV. And so I was pretty set on getting a Toyota Highlander. Now, that car is big though. And going from a Hyundai Elantra, I think definitely something was kind of feeling off about that car too, because it was just so big. Now, I used to drive a SUV for years before I drove a 4Runner. I drove a Toyota 4Runner, and I was pretty comfortable driving that. So I do have experience with bigger vehicles and SUVs, but it just seemed that Grand Highlander, especially if I'm going to use it as my daily driver, might have been a little bit too much. So I was still perusing and browsing. So I went on the Carvana site to just browse their used cars also. I was really interested in used because I didn't want to spend really up to the 50K range, or even much more than the 50K range. So, but I wanted a good car, an SUV that was reliable, 3 rows, probably a 7-seater, and hybrid. And those options make cars more premium and usually cost more. So I was even looking at the used market for Toyota Highlanders, and they were not that much more cheaper than new cars. There wasn't really any discount there. But as I was looking through sites like Carvana, I came across the Mitsubishi Outlander. And Mitsubishi has really never been on my mind much as a car I would maybe ever own. The most I knew about Mitsubishis was from the 90s, like the small sports cars, like the Eclipse or the Spider, which admittedly they look really cool. But yeah, they've never been on my radar. I don't think I've ever even sat in a Mitsubishi before, but it popped up as some used cars on Carvana. So I'm like, let me look into this more. And I saw that the price was pretty amazing compared to the Hondas and the Toyotas out there. And it offered pretty much everything I wanted and more. So that's kind of how I started the research. It wasn't like one day I go into the dealership and just pick a car. I had my eye on this particular used car. And so I was looking on Carvana, but I ended up seeing ones I liked better at a local dealership. Carvana only has up to the 2024 models at the time, which are also a great deal. You could get under $30,000 list price, some of them, but the 2025 was calling out for me as like a gently used. And I ended up actually getting a Carfax for this VIN number before I went to the dealership. Now looking back, I don't know if that was really necessary, but it's less than $100, and sometimes it's better for peace of mind. So I was able to see the Carfax, one owner, no crash history that was reported. And what I really liked is that it was a corporate fleet vehicle, so it seemed to be only used for business, so I could be assured that there was no like off-roading or anything on this. So usually corporate vehicles are kept in top shape. And so when I went to check it out, I was able to let them know exactly the car I was looking for, we took it for a test drive. I test drove it, my husband test drove it. We actually went when it was snowing out, so we were able to see how it acted in kind of slightly like icy weather, colder weather as well. And so yeah, that after test driving it, felt good. I think the salesperson also revealed that the corporate vehicle was used at the Mitsubishi headquarters, so it was used probably by executives there. So that also gave me good feeling about the car, that it was gently used, not really used for personal, just business, and just kept in good quality. And so my husband had to go to a work meeting afterwards, so I was at the dealership alone. Before he left, we agreed, like, yes, I'm gonna see if I could get this car today. If it's at the right price, I'll let you know. And I felt comfortable being there by myself because of the research I did. And also, I had a set number I just like could not go over. I pretty much only had like this amount of specific money in my checking account that it was like pretty much impossible to give any more. So that kind of helps with like negotiations and walk away power as well, I would say. But yeah, we went into the fees and everything, and so I agreed to sign for the car after they went up on the trade-in value. And so looking back, I definitely didn't do it perfectly. I'm sure others maybe could have traded more, but after a few days sitting on it, I'm happy with my purchase, and I think I still saved money versus like a new vehicle overall. But yeah, I'm glad that I researched a ton beforehand, looking up the VIN number on Kelley Blue Book is key if it is a used car. Checking the comparables there. If you're trading in, get a emailed quote from Carvana, and you could use that as a negotiation thing like I was able to. And don't shake any hands until they tell you a price that you're happy with. I forgot to talk about the pre-sale inspection. So I definitely recommend getting a pre-sale inspection. I kind of was on the fence of it at first because it was such a new car and it seemed like things were all right, but the dealer was going to charge me $200 to do an inspection, and I thought, why not go ahead with that, just for peace of mind. They also were okay with me going to an outside car repair shop or car place to get an inspection as well. I just decided to go with the dealership. They were able to print out a written report with me and go through it in detail with me as well. So I did get a pre-sale inspection before I signed anything. Before they agreed to bring the price to the one that I liked, they asked if I wanted to do cash or finance, and I told them that, you know, if finance gets to the final out the door number that I want, then I'm willing to look at finances. They came back and said they talked, and the financing really won't do any difference. So we decided to go with cash, and I feel very, very blessed in my life that I was able to pay cash right at the door for our car. So yeah, I agreed to cash and we got to the price that we wanted. But that's another thing that's very different from 13 years ago when I bought my first car, is that cash doesn't necessarily have the power that it did before. And there's a lot of resources out there that say don't mention that you're going to pay cash right out front, because sometimes dealers might make more money with financing. Now, I have my own opinions about financing, so you might want to weigh the pros and cons. Financing rates, I didn't finance this time, but just to give you an idea of like what I saw rates were. For used cars, it's normal for the rates to be higher. They're at like a little over 7% now, which is super high. And then my husband bought a CRV, a Honda CRV last year, and he financed it. Luckily, it's paid off right now, but he financed it for about 5.5% for a new one. So those are pretty much the going rates normally. But some dealerships will offer rate discounts or promotional rates during certain times as well. Again, Mitsubishi right now and the dealerships around me, I see like for certain qualified buyers, they have actually 0 or 0.99%. So that's just something you might want to look at and ask for as options. So there's different ways to go about that. I would say be open to options if you have the means to. Other things I want to note, I lost my title for my old car. And so they just asked if I can bring in my title, another copy from the DMV within the next few days. And I was still able to sign off everything right then and there. The whole process took about 3 hours, even without financing. I believe it would take a lot more time if you were to finance with them. They still ran my Social Security through a credit check. They said it was for in case my checks bounced or something. So I think my credit still got pulled. I don't know if that's a normal thing in dealerships, but I billed them. That's fine. I was fine with that happening then. So yeah, 3 hours. Expect like 3 to 5 hours at the dealership for sure. And so I was able to sign everything. As long as I promised to get the title, a copy of my old car's title to them, and I was able to get it later that evening. And so I went back there in the evening, handed them the title, and we were all good to go. The only thing I'm waiting for now is my car tags. I did transfer my tags from my old car to this new one, so that should come in the next few days. So that was pretty much the car buying process. The first time I bought my first car back in 2013, I went through maybe 5 or 6 different dealerships testing out cars from Toyota to Nissan. Either the price didn't work or we wanted to come back another time, and then I eventually landed on kind of a Hyundai dealership. It was a weird experience. I went with my dad, and I was a fresh 23-year-old college grad, and they just like zoomed beeline toward me. A lot of them completely ignored my dad and tried to pull me away from my dad to go see like the higher end, really fancier cars. And so I didn't like that. And so those places we walked away from for sure. There were some dealerships we went to where we were trying to work out the price, and this is when they would add on more things, and it was more normal to negotiate back then. Now we asked for lower numbers at times, and I didn't think it was unreasonably low or anything. And then some dealerships like got mean on us, and so we walked away from those. The last dealership I ended up going to, the Hyundai dealership, they were just night and day from how they treated us. Even with the test drive, they just handed us the key and let us go on our own to test drive. Even though they were like night and day and super nice, we still went home to think about it. And I think the next day we called them and negotiated a little bit over the phone. So I was able to ask for a little bit less, and they agreed to that. And then we came back later to pick up the car. And so, yeah, I did not have the best experience searching for cars last time. Probably 90% of the places I went to was a negative experience. So I'm always wary when it comes to car dealerships. And I was also thinking of just going through the Carvana route, because Carvana is a great tool where it's more straightforward, and they have a return window. And yes, it's used cars. They don't seem to add as many fees at the dealership that they hassle you about. Like, there's really no hassling. So yeah, I was looking at those options. I've heard of people used Carvana in the past. They've had mixed reviews, but this time, because of the model and year I wanted was nearby, I decided to just go and look and see in person, and you know, it was a better experience. Not perfect, but still a better experience this time around. One last note about the dealership is that we were able to use multiple payments. For the $200 inspection, that was separate. We were able to use a credit card, but they did tack on a 4% fee. So you might want to bring $200-300 of actual physical cash with you so you could pay the dealership for any inspections you do. We used 2 checks. One was under my name and one was under my husband's name. And the only thing was that they needed a driver's license for both. I didn't know that at the time, and my husband had already left to go to his work meeting. So, but they were okay with like him just sending me a picture of his driver's license and uploading it to their system. So if you do have multiple checks and they happen to be under different people's names, like if you have a check from your parents that are helping you buy a car, just make sure that either they're there with you or you can get their driver's license so they can process the checks as needed. But yeah, it wasn't really any snafu or holdup or anything, but that's nice that they were able to accept multiple payment offers like that. Okay, I think that's all the financing dealership stuff I want to talk about.